How do you decide what to put in your slides and what to remove when you are explaining complex work? I feel that I come across this question all the time from almost all of my clients, because objectively, when you are so deep into a project and so deep in your work, it is really, really hard to zoom out and think in a way that will be useful for the people who are listening to you when you are explaining all of those things. And one of the challenges they face, and they explain me, is exactly that. Like, how do I figure out what is important? How do I make sure that I say all the important things, that I don't miss out anything, but still that I make it in a cohesive way, that it's tangible for the people who are listening to me, that it makes sense to them, and so on. So what I've seen people try to do is to explain every single detail. So from this fear of not saying enough and not explaining it thoroughly enough, they tend to put all the details in, like explain every single detail of the algorithm, of the protocol, of the experiments, and so on. But this doesn't work, because people you are talking to, more often than not, do not know anything about your project, anything about your work, anything about what it consists of and how it actually works. So it's sort of counterintuitive for them to even follow that. They will be bored and they will just stop listening, which objectively, I mean, we all stop listening when we are not interested in something. Like, you cannot force people to care. And in order for this not to happen to you, what you really need to think about, instead of giving all the details, thinking about them. Like, you start to build your presentation, to explain your work in a way that resonates with them. And to do so, you have to really stop and think about them. Like, who is my audience? What do they need? What is their take into this? Like, how can I make sure that my work relates to something they care about? And I would say that answering this question, and once you get this question clear, everything else falls into place. The thing is that it is not so easy to answer that question, and it requires skills, it requires practice, and I mean, as any skill, it requires practice, and it requires us, STEM professionals, moving from this cause and consequence mindset to this impact mindset. And I see this all the time working with my clients, where as STEM professionals, we are trained to think in this cause-consequence mindset, right? So we tend to think like, when A happens, when I do A, B happens, like if then, right? However, the vast majority of people who were not trained in STEM disciplines do not think that way. They think in terms of impact, like when A happens, then B means that to me. Like, this is what I expect B to be, right? So in order for them to listen to us, and there are many situations in which we want people to actually listen to us. For example, applying for funding, pitching for a promotions. Like, we want them not only to listen to us, but to hear what we are actually saying. The best strategy and the best way to do so is to actually make sure that we fit our work and our expertise and frame it in a way that we are actually talking about something they care about. And when we are able to bridge this gap between the technical expertise and what they care about, there's where the magic happens, and that's where all of your promotions, funding, leadership positions lie in. Because the only way people will care is if we talk about something they already care about. So that's the skill. That's the magic of this skill, really, to be able to frame your work in a way that makes other people care. So, having said that, this is exactly what I teach STEM professionals to do. Because I've seen so many brilliant engineers, data scientists, developers simply being overlooked for promotions, for funding, because they are not explaining their work in a way that other people can see why it matters. And that's why I have my coaching program. That's why I am actually devoting my career and life to help STEM professionals, for others to see their brilliant work, because I believe that there are so many brilliant engineers, data scientists doing so many cool stuff, and simply they do not have the tools and the means to actually explain all of those brilliant stuff to people who are outside of their expertise. So if you're interested in this kind of coaching, I will leave a link down below in the description where you can schedule a completely free introductory call with me, where we can go over exactly that, like your current challenges, your current struggles, and talk a little bit about what are those bottlenecks in your career and how can we tackle them from the communication point of view. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, see you next time in another video. Bye bye.